Zach, I am really happy to be sitting here with Jordan and with Josh from Jade Communications today.
Gabe, that's awesome. I think we should have welcomed you to Colorado, but I can see the snow behind you, so I think that is your welcome present.
Yeah, I am. I am not built for snow. I have learned this week, and yeah, my coworker Dan asked me to make sure to bring my winter clothes, and I told him that I did not have any, and he asked if I was messing with him, and I was like, no, man, I live in California. I don't have winter clothes. It never gets this cold, so I had to dig a very old jacket out of my closet, but it's been keeping me warm, so it's all good.
Gabe, we're the same size. You just let me know and I'll ship a coat down. But
I
Gabe,
did
I want to
steal some clothes from Dan.
Yeah, I want to kick things off with an icebreaker question today because you know my love-hate relationship with icebreaker questions. But I kind of let Gabe pick from a list here. So for the Jade team here, and Gabe, yourself included, what's the strangest thing you've heard someone blame on bad internet?
I feel like Josh has got to have a good story here.
Let's see here. Last week, I got blamed for someone losing their job.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a serious
That's a good one.
Yeah, because they couldn't have internet, so they couldn't work.
That's a pretty serious one.
That's a good one. It's about one a week. I get like levied some threat about like how awful our Wi-Fi is, or if we can't fix it within an hour, it's the end of the world. But yeah, losing someone's job, that was a first for me.
Wow, that's I don't know that I've heard that one before, for sure. Any other crazy stories?
Oh, my favorite are the people that think Wi-Fi causes cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm going to have to get on chemotherapy now because of you.
You're like, we're not cranking the radios up that high.
Yeah.
Or radiating your brain, but that's an interesting one. Hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, we're cookie people.
I did have I had a neighbor, because I recently got fiber in my neighborhood, and I had a neighbor who was concerned that the fiber was going to catch her house on fire, because she was worried about that. She was definitely very worried about that. So that was a new one for me. I hadn't heard
Was the company called Fire Fiber Broadband?
It was not.
Oh, that's a missed marketing opportunity.
Should have been, yes. Fire Fiber.
And they could they could dispatch like fire trucks, like fake fire trucks.
That sounds pretty cool.
Oh, we have a campaign concept here, people.
That's good. That's good marketing. Dan and I were talking about when we were walking in the lovely Subarus you guys have out there that are all wrapped.
Oh, you think those are Subarus? Unbelievable.
No, those are hybrid RAVs.
Oh, they are. Okay, sorry.
80% of our fleet is hybrid.
All right, fair enough.
None of this bucket truck nonsense.
Yeah, sustainability.
All right, I like it.
I think Gabe, he's been in Colorado for one day and he's already seen the Subaru.
I just assume that everybody has a Subaru. It's my stereotype of Colorado.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, the entire car was covered in snow, so it was difficult to see what emblem was on it. To give myself a little bit of a pass.
Okay. All right. We'll let you have that one.
One pass.
All right.
No more pass. The rest of the pot.
Gabe, jumping right into things, I feel like talking about rolling that fire truck might have been a good introduction into what we want to talk about with Jade today.
Yeah, so we've been, Jordan, you and I have been talking about this concept of when irrational things actually make rational sense. And it was sprung out of this book that you shared with me called Alchemy. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about the book? Because I would definitely recommend people going out and reading it. It was a great book. But what are like some of the really key things and key points that jumped out to you reading it?
Yeah, it's written by Rory Sutherland, senior VP at Ogilvy over in the UK. And he talks about how marketing problems are not logical problems. They're sometimes indescribable problems or illogical or psychological problems. But really, he provides some examples on how we can think about problems differently, especially the problems our subscribers or customers face. I love the example of Red Bull. We were talking about it before we started.
Yep. It's a great one. So the story in the book about Red Bull is if you gave a bunch of rational people the concept of, hey, you need to create a competitor for Coca-Cola, a new product that's going to compete with Coke. Well, what would most rational people do? They would say, well, we need to create a better tasting product. It needs to be less expensive than Coca-Cola, and it probably needs to come in a bigger can or a bigger, something
more value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More value.
More value.
More value.
Sell on value.
Exactly. Whereas Red Bull, which is a huge competitor to Coca-Cola, did the exact opposite. Tiny can, really expensive, and I personally think tastes terrible, and I think most people actually think tastes terrible.
Yeah.
And they actually talked about that in the book, about how even during market research for Red Bull, people said, this tastes bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to drink it. I thought those stories were so hilarious.
They were so good. My favorite story from the whole book is the one about the wedding invitations. Remember the wedding invitations?
I do. Yes.
So they tested wedding invites to the same group of audience, but 3 different invites. One was an email. It was like, hey, come to our wedding. It's happening on this day. One was like a cheap invitation. And then another was a really fancy invitation, the one that you couldn't afford. And the best gifts came from the people who got the fancy invitation.
Yep.
So the author's advice is buy the invitation you can't afford.
Yes. Because you're going to get a whole bunch of really nice gifts.
That's right.
That also you can't afford, but at least you're getting those nice gifts.
all the Crate and Barrel, all the Pottery Barn.
Absolutely. You're going to get the fancy stuff.
Keep your Target stuff to yourself. People.
I'm just taking notes over here. This is good life advice now.
Yeah.
You have to keep in mind this when you get married, Zach, whenever that day comes.
Oh yeah, ask me in a decade.
Hey Zach, you and I are on the same path. I love it.
I love it. I'm tired of my mom asking, so I can finally relate to someone here.
Oh, I love it. But that concept of, again, doing the irrational thing, right? The Red Bull, creating Red Bull to compete with Coke, not necessarily rational, but I think we can all agree that Red Bull has been a wildly successful business, right? They own an F1 team because of all of the money that they make.
And like half of the soccer teams around the world.
Exactly. Making these terrible tasting tiny products. So we were trying to think about how does this now convert to the broadband service provider space, right? Truck rolls we were talking about. I know you guys kind of have a different perspective on this. Josh, maybe it's a good time to bring you in. What is as you guys are thinking about sending people out into the world to have these very, frankly, high cost, but also really high touch conversations with your customers.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've been focusing a lot of time on the past few months is a holistic approach to an existing customer. So as we're continually evolving our access network, going from GPON to XGS-PON, but and doing that on the fixed wireless too, but realizing having a new box inside the house doesn't solve all of the problems the customer has. So,
wait, it's not just about speed.
Whoa. Or it's not about having ONTA or ONTB. We need to take a step back, and I'm trying to get all of my techs and our operations to use all the data we have, take a step back and say maybe they require an additional mesh. Maybe they require another service. In fact, I would say about 20 to 30% of our upsells on site are done by our technicians.
Interesting.
For outdoor mesh, cameras, doorbells, indoor meshes. So we find that strategy that we're trying to get there, be very holistic.
So I'm obviously pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. I would assume that means that your technicians are probably spending a lot longer at a site than they would be if they were just quickly going out, solving the problem, and then getting the hell out of there.
We don't have it perfected. That's a pain point right now in our business is personalization it costs you time.
Yeah.
And so you want to have the cook and book cookie cutter approach.
Sure.
But we're not a cook and book company that does that. Our bread and butter is really taking the extra few minutes, doing so forth and so on. In fact, in 2025, we're probably going to have the technicians are probably going to be required to install PassPoint on 1 to 3 devices on the customer's home. Because when you really think about it, over the phone's really complicated. In person, give me your phone. Boom, boom, installed. Yeah. You have Smart Town. We did Smart Town. We have launched Smart Town 2 months ago. So, but personalization costs time. So we're still trying to account for giving the technician time to cook, time to bake on site. It's a bad word.
Let him cook. Let him cook.
We don't like Russell, but we're still trying to figure out that balance. But first, you can feel the tension in our organization between the sales and marketing, personalized, and operations is get stuff done.
Jordan's like dying.
That's a real
sure.
A real challenge
right now. So we'll be allocating more time for the techs on each job just to give them extra time to have these conversations.
Sure.
I'm trusting they do. But yeah,
I love that perspective. And I think there's that healthy balance, healthy fighting, if you want to call it that. Maybe, I know you guys are brothers, but you've probably been doing this for decades. But Jordan, when you think about, okay, technicians are spending that time to do the personalization.
Mm-hmm.
But from a brand perspective, how do you think about that? Like, I got to imagine you're thrilled when they spend a little bit more time, because ultimately that's another brand advocate that you're building.
100%. And what I really like about it is we're taking this concept of a truck roll, which the industry views as a whole as a negative thing, right?
Mhm.
It's costly, it's negative, and turn it into a positive.
Yep.
Hey, I took a whole day off of work, but someone came to my house and made sure that I had Wi-Fi connectivity throughout my entire neighborhood. Hey, someone came to my house and made sure that my Wi-Fi in the backyard worked exactly how I wanted it to, so I could have the Broncos on while I work in the shop.
Yep.
Those are services and personalization and relationships that no other competitor can offer.
Yep.
And that's what I like about it. So I think truck rolls, I'm probably the only one that's ever going to say this. I think they're actually a good thing if done right.
So are trouble calls.
So are trouble calls.
In fact,
I'm
there's
glad
a lot,
you brought this up,
there's a
'cause I
lot
want
of
to talk about this too.
just jump right in. There's a lot of trouble calls are essentially, it's another way of saying customers saying you haven't met all my problems.
Yes.
Right.
Love that perspective.
That's the way that's what they're saying.
You haven't met my need.
You haven't met my need.
Mhm.
Meet them or else. Okay. Ultimatums aside, because I don't like the whole like internet gun to the head.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're giving me an opportunity to solve other problems, and it could be speed related, right? We know anything below 300 meg is not enough, just on the trend. But 90% of the time, it's Wi-Fi coverage.
Sure.
It's I have a dead zone that I'm not telling you about. Those are hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Or my store-bought camera's not working right, and it's the Wi-Fi's fault.
Yep. So we try to solve more than one problem. It's difficult.
I think I told you the story, but did you ever hear the Zappos story about the person, the support rep who spent like 12 hours on the phone
Yeah,
with
it's a
the
world
customer?
record. Yeah.
It's insane. And again, like you'd think about that and go, that's completely irrational. Like, why would anybody want to spend that much time on the phone with the support rep?
Yeah.
But that person ultimately solved that problem. And Zappos is the type of company that celebrated that, right? I'm sure you guys don't want anybody spending 12 hours on a phone call, but it's ultimately you're getting to the need that the customer actually is looking to have solved.
Yeah. Here's another one. Here's another example of a psychological solution. And I'm not psychological like in your brain, but psycho-logical.
Yep.
As Rory would say.
Yes.
Is we took a significant portion of our marketing budget this year and poured it into beautifying the town.
I was going to ask you about this.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you before you head out today.
I got a picture of it.
You have a picture of it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah.
Cool.
Huge mural. Seven panel mural celebrating the history and culture of Alamosa. We could have turned that into flyers and postcards and said fiber is here, and that someone would have looked at and thrown out.
Yes.
But we did something so unique and so different that now people stop their cars and take selfies like you.
I 100% did that.
We're right now we're in the middle of doing our net promoter score, and a few of the strong responses all talk about Jade cares about my community.
Interesting.
Like, we don't say we care, we actually show.
Right?
Yeah,
it's easy to say that, right?
Easy
Everybody
to
says that,
Yeah.
but you do something like, again, that's an irrational thing to do. I was thinking about this as we were preparing for the podcast. Like, that was a big undertaking. You brought people out here to help support it. You had multiple people taking time off of work to actually do the painting and do the work. That's a big commitment. And from a quote unquote rational perspective, probably made zero sense.
Yes, ask my dad. Or don't ask him. Don't ask him. He's in the room next door.
No, the most beautiful, there's a lot of things great about the mural, but what I like most about how Jordan led this is he allowed everyone on our team contributed. So we booked 3 or 4 hours for technicians, for inside staff. We rotated.
Cool.
If you wanted to contribute and paint a line or whatever, I did the little tiny orange at the very end.
Nice.
And I'm still a little nervous that I messed the whole thing up. They were like, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
You're a perfectionist, Josh.
yeah.
Yeah, but so we're still working on the last phase of the mural, which I'm really excited about. So Alamosa, for a long time, has struggled with a homelessness problem. And our mural lives right in the downtown block of Alamosa, where a lot of homeless people hang out, especially in the winter and the cold like today. We are working on fundraising floodlights that would actually flood light down and pour light down on the murals to clean up the streets and make them a little bit safer for people to explore and roam.
It is a little dark over there. I actually went there. We went there last night, and it's a little.
Yeah, one street lamp.
Yeah. There could be some more light for sure, especially on a stormy day like this where there's not the sun's not helping you out.
Totally. And here's another benefit that I didn't even think about is because of the mural, we've now opened up relationships with new county and city officials who have said, wow, Jade is not some corporate company. They're actually a local company. Who knew? Yay.
Well, again, you probably told them that a million times.
Yeah.
We're local. You probably talk about it all the time in your marketing. We're local, we're local, we're local. But until they actually see you doing it in the community, they didn't necessarily connect the dots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So looking forward, like what are some, I don't need you to give away all your fun ideas, but like, are there other things that you're thinking about that are not rational,
Yes.
but make psychological sense?
What you got, Josh?
We have a lot of our customers, and this is like kind of the boring business talk, but a lot of our customers like to call to pay their bill.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. We've invented a portal.
Mhm.
We've invented an app. You could pay us like a billion different ways, and people like to call. So we're gonna try to be deliberate and toe the line between like having great customer service, but also saying, quit calling us.
Yeah, self-service.
Self-service.
Yeah.
And all to that end, I think we're going to do some cool like paperless initiatives. I mean, in rural America, like people like receiving paper.
Yeah.
But it's costing us a fortune.
It is
so
very
like
expensive.
boring business stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't align with our values. I mean, we've contributed significantly into a smarter, more intelligent network, saving huge power costs. We've invested heavily.
We're talking about the cars that
in a hybrid fleet. We've converted 85% of our fleet to hybrid, and this is just the next step of that evolution.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Love that. Well, it's meeting people where they are, right? Some people, do you have people still come in to like pay in person?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But there are going to be some people who potentially still want to do that, right? Or want to call in. But if you've given people the tools to be able to self-serve, if that's what they want to do, I see this a lot. Zach and I talk about this a lot with the customers that we're working with right now around like self-install. If somebody wants to do a self-install, okay. Yeah. If they, they may want it right away, right? Yep. Their biggest need is immediacy. Okay, fine. Then in an ideal world, I'm sure you would want your technician out there providing that white glove service. Like you said, they're great salespeople because people trust them, right? And we were talking about this earlier too, but so many times when I read through Google reviews, the great Google reviews are talking about Jordan came to my house. He was amazing. He did such a great job installing all of this. Like, they lean in so much to the technician and that personal thing that they have. But again, it's meeting people where they are, right? And giving them those options.
Do you want to tell the story about Trey and Angie?
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. So we have this young kid who just came to work at Jade as a technician. Nice guy. He goes to this lady's house to install her internet. And she comes and reports back to Josh and I, you sent some kid to my house. And he was the nicest guy ever. I mean, he looked like Zach. I mean, unmarried, single, total family embarrassment.
The best part was
the whole package.
I'm kidding, Zach.
And what was great about it is I was like, well, I mean, of course, I hope he did a good job. And he was like, he did, but that wasn't what differentiated you. She said he let my son, who's 2, play with his drill for like 30 seconds. And my kid lit up. And I was like, Jordan, buy fake drills for everyone right now.
Let's get plastic drills.
And just bring them around.
Like,
That's a great idea.
Little things like that. In fact, we this in 2024, we spent about $250,000 on our team and investing in sales training and customer experience training, not necessarily sales, but like what is customer experience in the sales journey. And, and I think it's paying dividends on the little things.
Well, but those little things make a big difference.
Personalization takes cost time.
Yeah. But like what internet provider would throw fake toy drills in their technicians' trucks and give it to a kid at the install? Yeah. Like that makes no rational sense.
It makes no rational sense.
Cost,
but it's the psychological piece of it that starts to just make a difference in the way that you're engaging with your customer.
Gabe, I want to cut in here. I just heard the term added cost, and I was actually just pressed on this today from a podcast episode we did last week. I think, Gabe, I don't know if it was you or if it was me, but I think together we referred to some of the investments that some of these larger companies are making as a loss. And so while it may be that, added cost, it's still an investment, going back to the painting, the investment in your community, the investment in having that customer experience. So investment, that's the term of the day for the podcast.
I think it's a really good call out, Zach. And I was thinking about that. We did an episode last week where we were talking about like Meta and Google were out with earnings last week. And they have whole departments within those organizations, Meta with their Reality Labs group and Google with their Moonshots organization, that they just set money on fire every quarter, basically, right? But they're doing it in a way that's placing asymmetrical bets. And you guys are sort of doing that in a way too. You're placing bets that the things that you're doing now are going to build up such a great brand long-term that the ultimate benefit is going to way outweigh the cost of, in this case, toy drills, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's thinking about how can I leverage the investments that I'm making now to really drive my business forward, in the long term, right? And Meta and Google are doing this on a much insanely large scale, right? But there's a great opportunity, I think, to do that at any level of business.
Well, think about Costco, right? People study Costco all the time. The rotisserie chicken hasn't changed its price
It's a great
in
one.
like
Or the
20
hot
years.
dogs.
I
Or
had
the
that
hot
for
dog.
dinner like 2
right?
nights ago. There's something magic.
But
It's
what they
still
do is
there.
they put it in the very back of the store, make it super affordable. So you're like, you're going to beeline for the rotisserie chicken. But on the way back, you're like, oh, Christmas decorations.
Don't mind if I
Hello.
do. Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Yeah, absolutely. The hot dog price is like that too, right? The
Yeah.
$1.50 hot dog.
Get you in the door.
I read a great quote from the CEO. It was actually the ex-CEO of Costco. They've got a new CEO that came on, I think, about 6 months ago. But the old guy said, somebody asked him, what will have happened for you to change the price of the hot dog from $1.50? And he said, it will mean that I am dead.
Yeah.
We are never
pretty-
changing.
He was pretty fatalistic about
He
it.
was
wasn't
he did not mess around when it came to the price of the hot dog. But again, sure, they lose money on that.
Yeah.
Rationally, it doesn't make any sense. Or the same thing with the rotisserie chicken, but it gets people in the store and gets and builds that brand. So, I love this. This was such a fun conversation, guys. I'm really glad we got to do this.
I enjoy it. Sorry, Zach. I didn't mean to make fun of you.
Hey, that's what we pay Gabe to do. But
Wait,
I can do it for free. Don't worry.
yeah, I'm still waiting. I think Gabe is withholding my paycheck because I haven't seen any podcast checks yet. But I'll let you know how that goes. But Gabe, I was really hoping for the wrap it up signal that you started with connections.
You do one of these?
I did, and we did it. So we did it. I did it on one. We did it connections, and I forgot we were on video.
Oh no!
So I was like, hey, it's probably about time that we should wrap it up. And then I watched the video back, and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. I completely forgot that we were on video, and I'm doing the hey, let's wrap it up. So anyway, yeah,
awesome. Well, hey, great conversation, Josh, Jordan. Keep an eye out for Gabe. It's snowing. I don't trust him much. You might want to just make sure he's okay here in Colorado. But thank you everyone for tuning in to Buffering.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.